hasn't debt servicing now overtaken development in Kenya, or is that just where's the truth in that? Because it feels like debt servicing has overtaken development in the country.
The two are interlinked, right? Because in a perfect world, let me say this, debt is supposed to finance development, right? So even as we're borrowing, we need to be borrowing to ensure that we're investing in the economy that will then now increase development, better education outcomes, better health outcomes, and the like. Right. When you say debt servicing is now overtaking the development, I think what you're alluding to is that the money that we would be using for development and for economic growth is now being diverted to debt servicing. Now, if we were managing our debt correctly, we would be using the money that we borrow to invest, especially in infrastructure, right? Debt is supposed to be investing in infrastructure, not recurrent. We're not supposed to be paying school fees and things that are not generating income. That even is the principle of debt, right? Even for a household.
For personal finances.
Exactly. A bank will give you money if they're sure that the money they're giving you is going to be invested in something that is going to generate income, and then that will help them repay your loans. The challenge is we are unclear on how we're using our money. Remember when back in the day when the former Auditor General Ouko did an audit on how we were using the Eurobond money, and nobody could figure out how we had used that money. It was just put in the general pot and used for general budget support. General budget support meaning whatever needs money, the Eurobond was applied there. But that is not the principle of borrowing. Borrowing is supposed to put it in something that is going to generate income. And are we doing that? The numbers are showing that we are not. Yeah. And if you see the debt and the borrowing should translate into economic growth, and our economic growth has been faltering. Yes, we've gone through the pandemic and the like, and I think our economic growth is about I'm going to get this number wrong, I think around 4.2, 4.3. And this year we're projecting it to be 5.3. But on what basis? How is the mathematicking in terms of how we are going to get to 5.3? I don't see it. So yes, I do agree with that statement. And I think we have a lot to do to make sure that our debt is working for us and for the dignity of the African people.
Okay. Yeah. But you see, we're already at 11 trillion shillings. Yeah. And we do not know whether our debt worked for us. Yeah. So what should we do now? Should we stop borrowing at all? Until we find out where our money went, until we finish paying this debt? Or can we continue borrowing? Because the way things stand right now, we are likely to, raise revenues of about what, 2.4 trillion shillings this year. 1.8 trillion of which is going into debt. Sasa tumebaki na pesa ngapi hapa? 600.
Negative.
600 billion shillings. That cannot even cover the education budget alone. That means we have to borrow to cover the rest. Yeah. Is that the best? Is that the only thing we can do?
Borrowing in itself, debt in itself is not bad. Yeah, debt is supposed to be everybody borrows, right? And I think I've demonstrated earlier that if you borrow for the right things, you should be able to get the right space. The challenge we're having in Kenya is that we have a really, really tight fiscal space context. And by that I mean we're not generating enough income to service even our basic expenses. Yeah. So every time, even when we're doing the finance bill and the revenue projections are put in front of us, the revenue projections never reach the amount that we're spending. Now, in economics, this is not an unusual situation, but if you have a situation where our revenue projections are never reaching what we have expected to cover, that means we have to continue borrowing, right? And we're not borrowing for frivolous things. Yeah? We're borrowing for education. We just talked about the education situation. We're talking about the health outcomes. Yeah, we have the SHA and the SHIF and all the problems that come with that. But that is what we're financing. This is why even with the SHA and the SHIF, we have to pay out of pocket because the government just cannot finance the whole bill, right? Agriculture, we're talking about the land issues, the titling. All of that is vital. But that also being said, the budget, I always think, every time when the finance bill comes out, people are ready. Guys are like, let that thing come. Even today, you are saying it's coming, deadline is tomorrow. We are waiting. Yeah. But when the estimates came out, nobody was like, let us look at what we're spending. We have the Kenya Kwanza, the better framework. We said, okay, we want to make sure that we have jobs for the youth. We want to make sure that we have, and our energy is strong. Our energy, remember when the Vietnam, that tweet from the Vietnamese guy, he was like, you guys at 4 gigawatts, us guys were at 70. Like, what are we doing here, right?
Jokers.
So we need to look at our expenditures and say, are we doing the things that is going to make us realize our plans and our objectives, right? Are we going to get to jobs? Are we going to have industry, right? And if we're not doing that and our revenues keep going lower, and it's a vicious cycle. If we're not investing in infrastructure, businesses are not going to be able to do well. If we don't have a strong transport network, if we don't have strong energy, if we don't have water provision, businesses are not going to thrive. And so the economy keeps going down. So it's a vicious cycle, which the government can break and needs to break with focused and dedicated expenditures. Corruption is really affecting us, right? And also not just in terms of the money that we have, but also in terms of perceptions. Yeah? Right. Nobody will want to lend to us. We'll say, we give you money, and the next minute it's in someone's Swiss bank account, right? So what are we
buying
doing?
some houses in Dubai. It's 340 something million shilling apartment.
Can you imagine? People are buying T-shirts and shirts and shoes that are exorbitant, and still purporting to serve the population who are less than $1 a day. How are we moving as a nation?
Banning mitumba for the less than. Anyway, that's a whole other. We'll go into that.
I tell you, everything is linked and everything is just challenging.
I wanted to paint a picture. It's 2022. It's President Wangari who's gotten into power. Still same fiscal situation, same level of debt distress, a Eurobond maturing very soon. What does she do different?
Number one, would I run for office?
No, it's just
No, I'm also hypothesizing within my heart. Hey,
let's say you didn't run for office. Let's say we picked you.
Yeah. That's what you didn't run. We chose.
What kind of democracy is this?
It's reverse democracy.
Reverse democracy.
Alternative democracy.
I know. So the question is, what would I do?
Yeah.
I think for me, and I said it before, I would look at that our expenditures and really figure out where can we cut, and then also where can we build. What does our energy look like? We always say we want to become a manufacturing economy. And in this global context of tariffs on tariffs, trade wars that are happening, how are we going to get there? If we're not going to be able to export to the US, or we're going to have less exports to the US, how are we then substituting that? And actually, when we saw, I was really challenged when I saw our president go to China to have those conversations with China, because I really would have loved it if he looked inward and had a meeting with the East African presidents, had a meeting with the other presidents around Africa, and said, look, the world is changing. We are being left behind in everything. AI, manufacturing, everything, we're being left behind. What can we do for ourselves? How can we put our heads together and come up with a long-term vision for what we want to do? I understand in the short term, we do need to engage and plug in where there are gaps, but we need to have a longer-term planning, longer-term visioning that involves ourselves, that is Africa-focused, and we can deal with our issues. We don't need to run to everybody else to deal with our issues. We can deal with our own issues. I mean, the other day, I was listening to the BBC, and they was, I don't know if it's your competitors. Can I say BBC?
Yep. They exist.
And they were saying the Ukraine president had gone to South Africa to help discuss, how to appease or to talk to the Russians to stop bombing Ukraine. And I'm like, look, we are participants in this world. We are seen as people who can actually have opinions and actually affect global issues. So why can't we, amongst ourselves, do the same? I don't think it's a stretch. So,
how does President Wangari pay that Eurobond that's maturing? in 2023.
So by
It's 2022.
reducing, I forgot about that question. Thank you for reminding me. I would reduce our expenditures, but then I would make sure that we're investing in the long term on economic and infrastructure aspects that will enable businesses to grow stronger, provide more growth